For any other company, these results would be amazing. But the question that seems to be swirling around Apple is, as good as they were, can this momentum continue?
That's correct. They're really a victim of their own success. One of the great things that happened for them in 2014 is they'd sold 74.5 million units in the December quarter. And the big question that everybody wants to know is, can they do it again? Can they beat that? Their guidance for December suggests that they believe they can, but there's still a fair amount of investor skepticism, not just for December, but actually as you carry over into the March quarter. A lot of people want to know, how much longer can this juggernaut continue to grow? And it's one of the big variables for Apple.
Yeah, and it's all about the phone. I want to talk about China for a second. They not only are holding up there with sales, despite all the concerns about slowdowns, but they seem to have pricing power in a market that is known for low cost.
They really do. They have a differentiated product over there. Most of the other phones that are sold in China are based on the Android operating system, and almost all of them are at a much lower price point than Apple. But with the differentiated product, a much higher quality build on the hardware, they're able to command a higher price. And Apple is a very desirable brand in China. So they do very well, and as they continue to open up more stores and market broadly, they're seeing tremendous success over there and really outpacing the overall smartphone market there, which is starting to slow.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it may have people kind of rethink what their international ability is. I think people sort of thought that the emerging markets and anything other than the rich West was closed off to them. Maybe that's going to change because of this. Brian, I'm curious, what do you do as an investor here? Do you stay away from Apple thinking that the best is over? I mean, this phone release, it was only a 6S. It wasn't sort of a whole new generation. Where do you stand in terms of what investors should do with the stock?
I think there is still a little bit of upside for Apple from here. It looks like we're going to see the stock trade up a few dollars today because their commentary and guidance did quell a lot of these investor concerns that I mentioned. I think there is some upside here, at least for the duration of the year. One of the things that investors are going to have to watch, though, is what do things look like into the March quarter, and that's where I think that there's a little more caution warranted because there is going to be some uncertainty about what that post-holiday drop-off looks like. But as you point out, the international opportunity is still well in front of them. If they can execute and continue to grow well in markets, not just like China, places like Indonesia and India, then this stock can probably continue to run. But there are some near-term things that we have to pay attention to.
Let's turn our attention to Twitter. Very different story today. A lot of disappointment around the earnings, and more importantly, what Jack Dorsey and the executive team had to say on the call. What did you make of it?
This is a company that has not really benefiting from overall internet application growth like we've seen from other companies, like Facebook or even like Google. The big knock on the quarter was that they're not really growing their monthly active users. They grew to 320 million from 316. The street expected to see a little bit more, 324. Dorsey's challenge right now is to grow those monthly active users, and what he plans to do is to make Twitter more consumer friendly, easier to use, and to make it more valuable so people want to spend more time on it. The big question mark is, can he do it? I think he's worth betting on. He's a real innovator. As one of the founders, he has the ability to come in and really remake Twitter and just cut through any red tape internally to get things done. They've announced a new product called Moments, which looks hopeful. But I think that investors are going to want to see that mobile active user growth before they're willing, I think, to plow into Twitter. That's why it's down today. But it's going to be exciting to watch what he can do over this next year.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of people pointing out, well, the bar is certainly really low for him if you're talking about, growing on that. What do you make about this dual role, though? This comes up a lot. Can Dorsey, as talented and innovative as he may be, turn around Twitter and take Square public at the same time?
I think Square is going to take care of itself for now. And I do think he is in a position to really make Twitter better. Right now they have a strong user base, but he sees what's being done on Facebook with the news feed. He sees what Snapchat is doing, and I think he does have the ability to come in and at least grow users for a period of time. I'm not worried about the dual role. I think he's very talented, a lot of innovation, a great history of innovation. I think he can be successful here, but it might take 6 to 12 months before we see it.
Let's see if investors are patient, and they're going to have to get used to some pretty frank talk, it seems, from Dorsey, who's being very honest about the challenges facing Twitter.